Morgan, it's Morgan. Welcome to Murder in the Morning. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and like this video. So get ready with me while I talk about a true crime story. This is part 3 of the Lori Vallow case and is going to be the final part, I promise. I may do like an update since they're in trial right now, but that would probably just be a YouTube short. So let's get into the video. October 19th, 2019 is the date that Kay and Larry Woodcock, which if you remember is JJ's biological grandparents, they find out that Tylee and JJ are missing according to Brandon, business partner's wife. So Brandon, if you remember, I kind of briefly went over it. He was shot at by Alex Cox. And we talked about that in part 2. So in late October, early November of 2019, Lori and Chad lie about the death and existence of Lori's minor children. The police department says that the coming weeks after Tammy's death, Chad and Lori both told witnesses that Lori's daughter had died a year prior to her father, which isn't true. So it'd be before Tylee's father, a year before that. And Chad told another witness that Lori had no minor children at all, ever. Fall of 2019, after Tammy had died, Chad receives $430,000 in life insurance. And if you remember, if she had died in a car accident while wearing her seatbelt, he would have gotten an extra $10,000, but that didn't happen, so instead he just had to, well, kill her. We'll find out. So then also around that same time, Chad is allegedly excommunicated from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints for declaring that he is a prophet. So that is not how it works in this church. You can't just, wake up one day and say, hey, I'm the prophet, and, try and have a cult and, kill people. Like, that's just not okay. So he was allegedly excommunicated from this church. And the first week of November 2019, Rexburg PD is contacted by Gilbert and Chandler PD in Arizona after the attempted shooting of Brandon, like I said, and helped in obtaining search warrants for the 2018 Jeep Wrangler that Tylee drove, but was registered to Charles Vallow and was in Lori's possession. So they said that it was significant that the vehicle that Tylee regularly drove was still in Rexburg, even though her last sighting was, she hadn't been sighted for nearly 2 months after the Jeep was still being used and sighted. In November 2019, there was a detective that was doing intermittent surveillance, and he said that the whole time that he was doing surveillance, he never saw JJ during the entire month of November. So then November 3rd through the 6th, Lori and Chad go to a beach resort in Hawaii, and then during their stay, they get married in Hawaii. So November 5th is when they get married, and this is only 17 days after his wife dies. So 2 days later, Chad and Lori meet with someone about renting a room in Hawaii, and they said that it was a sign from God that they found this room inside someone's house. And when the person renting out the room, they ask Chad about his late wife, and he says, and quote, "She helped me reconnect with Lori so quickly, and it helped my children move forward." He knew and was like with Lori before his wife even died, and his wife didn't even set them up. So even if, no, none of that is true. Literally none of that is true. And it's just so crazy because it's like 17 days later, you're marrying someone new after being with this other woman for so long. I mean, he killed her probably, so it's not like he cared that much about her. Chad didn't even tell Tammy's family that he got remarried. They found out November 23rd, 2019. So like 2 weeks after he had gotten remarried, her family found out. And then a day later, Lori and a man who looks like Chad were seen going to a storage unit in Rexburg, and they left memorabilia, a box of memorabilia for Tylee and JJ, and a tote, like a box thing of clothing. So this investigation kicks off November 25th, 2019, because the Rexburg police are notified by the Gilbert, Arizona police to do a welfare check on JJ by Kay and Larry Woodcock, his grandparents. They're like, hey, can you do a welfare check, because we haven't heard from him. His guardian won't respond to us. Can you guys just go check on him? So Rexburg police gets involved to go do a welfare check, and when they go the next day, they're told by Lori that JJ is staying with a family friend, Melanie Gibb to be exact. Chad calls Melanie and he's like frantic, and he's like just like being awkward or whatever, and he's just like, oh, can you just say JJ's with you? Just, you know, if the cops come and they ask you, like, just say JJ's with you. She's kind of like, okay, what's going on? And then she gets off the phone with Chad, and Lori's like, oh my goodness, you totally butchered that. So Lori calls Melanie and she's like, oh, I don't know why Chad was being so awkward and so like, just don't mind him. Like, yeah, if you could just do us a favor, and like, if the cops ask, like, you went to go see Frozen 2 with JJ, okay? And another thing, like, don't worry about it at all, but if you could just take a picture of a bunch of random kids and like maybe find one that kind of looks like JJ and just take a picture of them, then send it to me. Just take a picture of a bunch of kids. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. But if the cops ask, like, yeah, you went to see Frozen 2 with JJ, and just send me a picture of a bunch of random kids. I'll take care of the rest. So she's not even like sus. She's just kind of like, okay, that's what they asked me to do. Melanie at first just like avoided the police and she wasn't returning their phone calls. But then eventually she does tell the truth that JJ isn't with her. So this is kind of what transpired. The cops said that happened after this whole where's JJ thing. Chad acted like he didn't even know Lori. He was like, oh yeah, I don't know her very well. I don't know her phone number, but they had been married for 3 weeks at this point. And then Alex Cox, Lori's brother, told detectives that JJ was with his grandma, Kay Woodcock. Like, yeah, don't you guys know that he's with his grandma? The person who asked you to check on him, he's actually with that person. That makes no sense. And they were easily able to say, no, he's not with his grandma, because his grandma's the one who told us to come check on him. So that's clearly not true. So then Alex said, oh yeah, Lori might be in apartment 107. Well, apartment 107 was vacant, so they knew that she wasn't there. And then they later found her in apartment 175. And then Chad, when investigators were there, detectives were there, at the apartment, he tried to leave, and then the detective stopped him. And then Chad also told the police that he saw JJ in apartment 107. And then he remembers that he's married to Lori, and he remembers that he actually does know Lori's phone number. And that's when when they get in contact with Lori, she says that JJ is with Melanie. When the Rexburg police didn't hear back from Melanie, they called the Gilbert Police Department in Arizona, because that's where Melanie lives. And they asked them to go check on JJ, which is crazy. It's just like boom, 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 boom. So much workaround. So they go to her home, but she's not there. And they did reach her by phone. This part's a little confusing. She returns the call and tells them that she had JJ, but it says that the Gilbert Police Department falsely reported that she said she didn't have JJ. So they like wrote down that she said, oh, I don't have JJ, but really she said that she did. And then at Chad Daybell's preliminary hearing, August 2020, Melanie says that JJ hadn't been there for several months. So eventually she did say, like, no, I don't have him, but it took days for her to come clean, according to my sources. And this allowed Chad and Lori to dip to Hawaii. November 27th, 2019, police go and search that storage unit and they find kids' bikes, toys, photo albums, winter clothes, a backpack with JJ's initials, a jersey with Colby's name on it, that's her first son, photo blankets made from pictures of Tylee and JJ from infancy on. So they basically find all of the kids' stuff, and then that same day the police go to see Colby and they ask him if he's seen JJ or Tylee. He reaches out to his mom, Lori, and says, "2 detectives just came by my door. What is going on?" She allegedly answered, "I got it. I'll take care of it. Love you." Colby added, when pressed, that she asked what the detectives wanted and what they said. And he told the police that he would reach out to them if his mom, reached out again or said anything. So that same day, the police asked for assistance finding JJ and Tylee from the FBI. So it's like, okay, things are starting to progress. Things are starting to move forward in this investigation. They serve search warrants on Lori's townhome and Alex's apartment, where they find a bunch of firearms, including a silencer that matched a gun. So they think that it was probably a silencer, a gun with a silencer on, not a paintball gun that shot at Tammy. So a couple days later, November 30th, Colby Ryan comes into possession of the Nissan Rogue registered to Lori and Alex Cox, and he detailed it even though there were visible blood stains. In his defense, he thought he was just getting a car from his mom and I guess wanted to clean it, take care of it. So December 2019, Melanie says that the kids are most likely dead and were probably killed by Alex. At this point, she's like very cooperative with police and she doesn't really want anything to do with what's going on. December 2nd, 2019, Lori sends an email to Colby saying, "Hi Colby, I need you to know that we are safe and happy. I know this sounds confusing to you, but I need you to trust me that although there are wicked people trying to cause harm, that Jesus is on our side and taking care of us. Although we may be out of touch for a while, I will continue to help you. I love you all so much. The car and the car insurance will be paid for, so you can drive it with no worries. The phones will also be good. You are precious to your mama. I love you so much. Kisses to you and Riley and Kelsey. I hope to talk to you soon. I will continue to pray blessings on your family constantly." I almost feel like the car was like a bribe and just being like, "Oh yeah, I'll take care of you and the phone and do whatever else I can. The insurance is paid for, the car is paid for." Or she was just trying to get rid of evidence. She was like, if I give this car to him, then maybe the cops won't find out that I gave it to him. That's probably more what happened. Colby said, "Okay, Mom, I love you. Please be smart and take care of the kids and yourself. I don't know what's going on, but I'm praying for you all. I'm mad and sad, but I know I can't control anything going on. Please be safe. All of you. We love you, and if you can help us at all through Venmo too, that would help. I'm gonna be getting a second job. Until then, we could use a little help. You have helped us so much with the car and phone, so thank you for that. I love you all." It's just like, now that he knows everything, that sucks, bro. Because that's like his mom, Tylee, she was Tylee and JJ's mom too. So it's just like horrible all around that you could do this to your kids, grown or young. December 10th, Lori and Chad move into a condo in Princeville, Hawaii. There's going to be a lot of moving back and forth. There's a text exchange December 11th, 2019. Alex and Chad have a text exchange, and Alex is saying that he's not feeling well and he has a resting heart rate of 100 beats per minute. He also expressed concern that the poison from the spear in the heart has done some residual damage. So I wonder what that means. I wonder if he's like, karma's catching up with me or something. The same day that he sends these texts, Tammy's remains are exhumed by the Fremont County Sheriff's Office and an autopsy is conducted. A day later, she's reburied. So her family was not told that her body was going to be exhumed. They actually showed up to the cemetery to, pay their respects and talk to her, whatever you do, and they realized that her body wasn't there. And that's how they found out that she was exhumed. And at this time, they had no idea anything. Like, they didn't know that JJ was missing, Tylee was missing, that Charles Vallow was killed. They didn't know anything. So they're like, why in the world are you exhuming her body? I thought she died of natural causes. I thought that there was nothing wrong. Like, they were so confused and so frustrated, understandably so. I think it's a good thing that she was exhumed so that they could have another look. The next day, December 12th, 2019, Alex Cox dies of suspicious causes at 419 in Gilbert, Arizona. So he had married Zulema 12 days before that, and her son, 25-year-old son Joseph, finds Alex Cox laying on the floor, but he's like on his side, and when he does a 911 call, the cops tell him to move him to his back, but he says that there's feces there and he doesn't want to. And then they're like, okay, start chest compressions, and he's like, okay, I'll try. And I'm like, I mean, I guess he just thinks that it's his mom's boyfriend, but still, like, okay, I'll try. Like, no, try. Anyway, so Alex dies, and they do an autopsy and they do a toxicology report, and the only thing it really showed was that he had some caffeine in his system and like some other minor stuff. But the police wanted to question him about the death of Charles, Brandon, and Tammy because he was involved in all of those in some degree. December 13th, 2019, the police start tracking down the kids' dental records, mostly to be like, if we find their bodies, we need to be able to verify that it's them, so we need the dental records, which is so sad. So December 18th, 2019, Chad Daybell's parents are interviewed by Rexburg police, and they tell investigators that Chad and Lori told them that Lori was an empty nester. Again, that she had no minor children. So the next day, December 19th, 2019, Tylee and JJ are added into the National Crime Information Center as missing and endangered juveniles. And then Chad and Lori that same day are told to provide proof that Tylee and JJ were alive and well. But instead of being like, oh yeah, we'll get right on that, they get counsel, lawyers. They lawyer up. So when the autopsy is done, other than the toxicology, they say that Alex Cox died of natural causes, blood clots, and pulmonary embolism. January 16th, 2020, DNA results from the blood samples collected in the Nissan Rogue and Ford F-150 were received, and it was confirmed the blood came from 2 identified females. And then January 25th, Lori is served with a child protection order from Madison County Prosecutor's Office in Rexburg, requiring her to produce Tylee, Ryan, and JJ to Idaho by January 30th. So that shouldn't be very hard if your children are still alive. It's not very hard. It's crazy because everyone was like super invested in this case, like even in Hawaii, Arizona, Idaho, everyone was keeping an eye out for those kids and keeping an eye out on Lori and Chad, their movements and everything. So it's just crazy that even the Hawaii police got involved and stepped up to try and find these kids. January 26, 2020, Lori and Chad were served with a search warrant for their condo in Hawaii, and these are the things that the people searching, this is what they noted. There were 2 of everything: lawn chairs, beach towels, 2 of everything, and only 2, which would be 1 for Chad and 1 for Lori, and then nothing that points to that they have a 7-year-old kid or any other kid. So it was clear that the kids were not with them in Hawaii, but they just have to make sure. January 29th, 2020, Jay and Larry Woodcock file for emergency guardianship of JJ in Rexburg, Idaho, just in case, because the next day is when they are supposed to present. They're supposed to provide the kids, supposed to show up and say, here are the kids. And so Kay and Larry were just hoping that if the kids for some reason are okay and they show up, we will have guardianship. And this just makes me even more sad, just knowing that obviously I want people to have hope, but it's just so sad that they had hope and then gotten it taken away from them. So that same day, Lori and Chad allegedly move to Kauai, Hawaii. And then February 17th, the FBI receives tips from reporters that they moved from Kauai to Maui, and then the next day they returned back to Kauai. So that same day, Madison County Prosecuting Attorney's Office submits a criminal complaint against Lori, and the complaint alleges 5 crimes. These crimes are 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children. So basically, she's leaving and not taking care of her kids. Resisting or obstructing officers, misdemeanor. Criminal solicitation to commit a crime, misdemeanor. And contempt of court, which is another misdemeanor. February 20th, 2020, Lori is arrested and taken into custody at 2:30 p.m. by the Kauai Police Department. She's held on a $5 million bond pending being extradited to Idaho. So she has a bond just until she leaves Hawaii to go to Idaho. As they're arresting Lori, they confront Chad, and her first court hearing was in Kauai that next day. And here are some of the highlights. Lori's attorney requested that her bail go from $5 million to $1 million. And the judge was like, no, so her bail stayed at $5 million. And then Lori says that she should have an extradition hearing to fight being extradited to Idaho. And that hearing was scheduled for March 2nd. So basically she didn't want to get sent to Idaho and wanted to stay in Hawaii. So then she was booked in Kauai Community Correctional Center that same day. So a few days later, February 26th, the judge denies her second request to lower the bond, and she waives the right to the extradition hearing. And so she's heading to Idaho to face charges. When she gets to Idaho, March 6, 2020, her bond is reduced from $5 million to $1 million, but all of the bond people said that she was too much of a risk and that no one wanted to, help her get out. Obviously, she's a flight risk because she's already fled to Hawaii before, and Chad wasn't able to come up with the money. So they kind of announced during this time that Lori was still receiving Social Security benefits for both kids, even though she left Idaho without them. May 2nd, 2020, Tammy's manner of death goes from natural to undetermined. Dr. Wallace from the County Office of the Medical Examiner told Gilbert police detective that no additional tests were viable for Tammy or for Alex without knowing which poison to test for. So unless they knew what had been used, most likely, then they wouldn't be able to test for it. That's what she said. June 9th, 2020, there was a search warrant for Chad Daybell's property, and they discovered 2 sets of human remains. Chad is arrested. They said that he tried to leave as they're digging up in his backyard, and there were people, because people know him, he's lived there for a really long time. People are just driving and they're like, that's Chad Daybell. Anyway, so they got him. But they arrested him, and he was charged with destruction or concealment of evidence and booked into the Fremont County Jail. Tylee's remains were found charred, and she had been dismembered post-mortem. Tylee was murdered around 3:37 a.m. to 4:37 a.m. As we had talked about before, we knew the date but we didn't really know the time. The window of time. May 24th, 2021, prosecutors for Fremont County and Rexburg, Idaho, they announce charges against Chad and Lori for first-degree murder for the deaths of Tammy, Tylee, and JJ, as well as other charges including conspiracy, theft, and insurance fraud. June 8th, 2021, Lori is found incompetent to stand trial, and her case is stayed. The next day, Chad is arraigned on charges of first-degree murder for the deaths of Tylee, JJ, and Tammy, as well as other charges including conspiracy, theft, and insurance fraud. So they're both charged with the same things, but he pleads not guilty, so it looks like he is competent to stand trial. June 24th, 2021, a grand jury in Arizona indicts Lori on the charge of conspiracy to commit murder on the death of Charles Vallow. So everything is just all coming back around. Ugh, I love this. Finally going to get justice. So Lori isn't arraigned on those charges until April 19th, 2022. Lori was silent during the arraignment, and her attorney asked a judge to enter a not guilty plea on her behalf to murder and other charges. October 6, 2022, motion is filed to stay Lori's case until her competency could be assessed. So this is the last I had heard until doing research for this case, was that the case was stayed. And so that stressed me out. Then October 18th, 2022, the case for Lori and Chad was vacated. Lori's trial is going on right now. Unfortunately, they aren't filming it. Like, they won't allow any cameras in there, so we can't watch it like we could the Johnny Depp case or even the Murdaugh case. So it's unfortunate that we can't watch it, but here are just like a little few updates, a few big things in my opinion, things that I found interesting. Chad's is still months away. So right now it's only Lori's going on, so they're being tried separately. Idaho prosecutor Lindsay Blake said on Monday, so April 10th, I think, that Tammy Daybell died of asphyxiation. That's new. So at one point in the trial, Lori's defense attorney asked the judge if she could be excused for the rest of the day's testimony, saying that since graphic evidence was to be shown, it would be detrimental to her already failing mental health. She was barely found competent. Do you really think that she can handle this graphic evidence that she caused? Judge, it's just not fair that she should have to listen to the things that she did, the things that she caused. It's just too much for her mental health. Well, the judge said, no, you're gonna listen to this, and here's the graphic stuff. Obviously, I can't show it. I'm not going to. I don't have it. So, but if you don't like to hear graphic stuff, then thanks for tuning in. So, trigger warning. There's two photos. In one of the photos, JJ was wearing red pajamas, as we talked about. There was a picture of him in his red pajamas, and it's what he was found in. He was found in red pajamas and socks, duct tape covering his mouth, and binding his arms and legs together. His arms were visibly bruised. They said his body had partially decomposed. Black plastic covered his remains, which were buried near a tree on Daybell's property. Just like got like such a sinking feeling. That was so sad, so horrible. How could you do this to a 7-year-old kid? Like, just unimaginable. The jury having to see this and hear this is rough. The other picture is of Tylee's remains. They were destroyed and burned, packed into a melted green bucket, and buried at a different location on the property. Prosecutors had him describe pieces of the remains as shown in the series of photos, so someone had to describe what the remains looked like. If you want to stay up to date on the trial, go ahead. Like I said, I might do a little update on what happens, whether they're found guilty or not. That is all for the Lori Vallow case. Oh my goodness, it took so long. I'm so glad that it's over. I don't know if I said this before, but there's only like 2 storage units in all of Rexburg, and I had my stuff, all of my belongings, in one of them at the exact same time. So I lived in Rexburg the same time all of this was going on. So it was crazy. I'm hoping that they'll bring justice to everyone, Charles, Tammy, the kids, everyone. I hope that they find justice, and that obviously too late to save them, but what we do now and how this trial goes will, make a difference. Let me know what I should talk about next week, because I'm now done with the Lori Vallow case, so let me know what I should talk about, what you're interested in. But thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you can see my other videos. Bye!